Unfolding the unexpected. How small decisions shape our greatest journeys. Why ordinary people become extraordinary leaders in the face of adversity, and the powerful lessons hidden in everyday moments that we often overlook until life forces us to pause and reflect. I never thought choosing to help a lost kid find his mom in a crowded airport would change my entire life, but sometimes the smallest acts of kindness create the biggest ripple effects you could never imagine. It was December 2019. And I was rushing through Denver International Airport trying to catch a connecting flight to my new duty station in Germany. I'd been in the Army for 3 years, but this was my first overseas assignment, and I was nervous about starting fresh in a foreign country where I didn't speak the language. That's when I saw this little boy, maybe 6 years old, standing by himself near the food court looking absolutely terrified. He was clutching a stuffed dinosaur and crying while hundreds of people walked past him without stopping. My flight was boarding in 20 minutes. But something about his scared face made me pause. I knelt down to his level and asked if he was okay. Between sobs, he told me his name was Miguel and he'd gotten separated from his mom when she went to buy coffee. He didn't know her phone number, couldn't remember which gate they were supposed to be at, and spoke mostly Spanish with limited English. Here's where that small decision to stop changed everything. I could have just alerted airport security and continued to my gate, but instead I decided to help him find his mom myself. I pulled out my phone and used Google Translate to communicate with him better, learning that his mom was traveling alone with him to visit his grandmother in Mexico. Miguel's mom worked 2 jobs as a single mother and had saved for 2 years to afford this trip. When Miguel told me this in broken English mixed with Spanish, I realized this wasn't just about finding a lost parent. This was about reuniting a family whose entire Christmas vacation could be ruined if we didn't act fast. We started searching together, with Miguel describing his mom while I translated his Spanish words. He said she wore a blue jacket and had long black hair, but in an airport full of travelers, that description fit dozens of women. I was starting to worry we'd never find her when Miguel suddenly pointed and shouted, "Mommy!" His mother was frantically talking to airport security about 50 yards away, crying and gesturing wildly. When she saw Miguel running toward her, she collapsed to her knees, sobbing with relief. The reunion was so emotional that other travelers stopped to watch, and several people started crying just witnessing their joy. Miguel's mom hugged me and kept saying, "Gracias, gracias," while tears streamed down her face. Through her limited English and my terrible Spanish, she explained that Miguel had autism and wandered off when he got overstimulated by the crowd noise. She'd been searching for 30 minutes, imagining the worst possible scenarios. That's when I learned the real impact of my small decision. Miguel's mom told me she'd been saving money to visit her dying mother in Mexico, and this was probably their last chance to see her together. If Miguel had remained lost and they'd missed their flight, she wouldn't have been able to afford new tickets. I walked them to their gate and made sure they got on their plane safely. Miguel gave me his stuffed dinosaur as a thank you gift, which I still keep on my desk today. As I watched their plane taxi away, I realized I'd missed my own connection, but I didn't care. Helping them felt more important than anything else. While waiting for the next flight to Germany, I got a message from my new commanding officer saying our unit's arrival had been delayed anyway due to weather. If I hadn't stopped to help Miguel, I would have spent 18 hours stranded in a German airport instead of doing something meaningful. The delay gave me time to reflect on what had just happened. I started thinking about all the times I'd walked past people who might have needed help because I was too focused on my own schedule. How many Miguels had I missed because I was looking at my phone instead of paying attention to the world around me? 6 months later, I received a package from Mexico with no return address. Inside was a photo of Miguel with his grandmother, along with a letter in English that someone had helped his mom write. She explained that her mother had passed away 2 weeks after their visit, and she was grateful every day that Miguel and I had found each other in that airport. The letter said Miguel talked about the soldier who helped me find Mommy constantly and had decided he wanted to join the army when he grew up to help people like I had helped him. She included drawings Miguel had made of soldiers helping children, and every picture showed the same stuffed dinosaur I'd given back to him. Reading that letter in my barracks in Germany, I realized I'd witnessed something profound about the nature of influence and legacy. This little boy I'd spent 20 minutes with was now telling everyone he met about kindness, service, and helping others. My small action had planted a seed that was growing in ways I never could have predicted. That experience taught me that leadership isn't always about commanding troops or making strategic decisions. Sometimes it's about recognizing when someone needs help and choosing to act, even when it's inconvenient or costly to yourself. The 20 minutes I spent helping Miguel shaped how I approach every interaction with people who need assistance. When I became a squad leader 2 years later, I remembered that moment whenever my soldiers came to me with personal problems. Instead of seeing their issues as disruptions to military efficiency, I saw them as opportunities to make the same kind of difference in someone's life that I'd made for Miguel and his mother. One of my soldiers, Private Chen, was struggling with homesickness and cultural adjustment after immigrating from Taiwan. Instead of telling him to toughen up, I spent time learning about his background and helping him navigate American military culture while maintaining his cultural identity. Chen was incredibly smart but felt isolated because his English wasn't perfect, and he didn't understand American cultural references that other soldiers took for granted. Rather than letting him struggle alone, I started including him in conversations, explaining context when needed, and encouraging others to do the same. Chen later became one of our most effective team leaders because he felt supported rather than dismissed. He told me that feeling understood gave him the confidence to help other soldiers who were struggling with similar challenges. The kindness rippled outward from one person to another, creating a stronger unit overall. I started noticing this pattern everywhere. Small acts of consideration and understanding had exponential effects on unit morale and cohesion. When Sergeant Williams took extra time to train a struggling soldier instead of writing him off, that soldier became our best mechanic. When Lieutenant Rodriguez listened to concerns about family problems instead of dismissing them as personal issues, her soldiers became more focused and effective. The Miguel lesson taught me to look for moments when people needed help, even when they didn't ask for it. During field exercises, I'd check on soldiers who seemed overwhelmed. During long deployments, I'd make sure isolated team members felt included. During stressful periods, I'd create opportunities for soldiers to talk about what was bothering them. These weren't grand gestures or official leadership techniques I'd learned in training. They were small decisions to pay attention to the people around me and respond to what they needed in the moment. But the cumulative effect was transformational for our entire unit. I've carried Miguel's lesson through every assignment since then. Whether it's helping a new soldier learn regulations, assisting a family during a PCS move, or just listening when someone needs to talk, I remember that small acts of kindness often have impacts far beyond what we can see in the moment. During my deployment to Syria, this philosophy was tested in ways I never expected. We were working with local contractors and interpreters who faced daily threats for helping American forces. Many of them had families who depended on their income, but they also lived in constant fear of retaliation. One interpreter, Ahmed, seemed particularly stressed during a difficult week when several contractors had received death threats. Instead of ignoring his obvious distress, I asked if he wanted to talk about what was bothering him. He broke down and explained that his daughter needed surgery, but he was afraid to take time off work because his family needed the money. I could have just offered sympathy and moved on, but I remembered Miguel and chose to act. I worked with our medical team and command structure to arrange for Ahmed's daughter to receive treatment at a coalition medical facility. It required paperwork, coordination, and several favors, but we made it happen. Ahmed's relief was visible, and his gratitude was overwhelming. But the real impact came later, when other interpreters and contractors saw how we'd helped one of their colleagues. Word spread through the local community that American soldiers cared about the people working with them, not just the mission objectives. This shift in perception led to better intelligence sharing, more cooperation from local populations, and increased security for our operations. A small decision to help one man's daughter had strategic implications that improved our entire mission effectiveness. The ripple effects reached places I never could have anticipated. The lesson became clear. Extraordinary leadership often emerges from ordinary moments when people choose compassion over convenience. It's not about having special training or natural charisma. It's about recognizing that every interaction is an opportunity to make someone's situation better or worse, and consistently choosing better. 3 years after Miguel, I was selected for the Army's Advanced Leadership course, where they teach the theoretical foundations of military leadership. But sitting in those classrooms, I realized that a 6-year-old boy in an airport had already taught me the most important lesson. Leadership is about seeing people as human beings first and subordinates second. During one leadership exercise, we were given a scenario where we had to choose between mission completion and helping a struggling team member. Most students chose mission completion, citing military priorities and unit effectiveness. I chose to help the struggling person, explaining that taking care of people ultimately improves mission success. My instructors initially questioned this approach, but when I explained the Miguel story and its long-term effects on my leadership style, they understood. One instructor, a colonel with 30 years of experience, told me that technical skills can be taught, but the instinct to care for people is something that comes from character, not training. I graduated from the leadership course with a new understanding that the best leaders are often those who learned their most important lessons outside formal military education. The skills that matter most, empathy, situational awareness, and the courage to act when others need help, can't be taught from textbooks. The Miguel principle started influencing decisions beyond my immediate unit. When I was promoted to company-level leadership, I implemented policies that prioritized soldier welfare alongside mission readiness. We created support systems for families during deployments, mentorship programs for struggling soldiers, and regular check-ins that went beyond professional performance. Some senior leaders initially questioned these approaches, viewing them as soft or unnecessary. But the results spoke for themselves. Our unit had the highest retention rates, lowest disciplinary problems, and strongest performance metrics in the brigade. Taking care of people wasn't just morally right, it was strategically effective. The approach caught the attention of brigade leadership, and I was asked to share our methods with other units. What started as helping one lost child had evolved into a leadership philosophy that was improving entire organizations. Miguel's influence was spreading through military structures in ways that neither of us could have imagined that day in Denver. I began speaking at leadership conferences, sharing the airport story and explaining how small acts of kindness create exponential positive effects. Audiences were always surprised that such a simple concept could have such profound implications, but the evidence was undeniable. Units that prioritized human connection alongside mission accomplishment consistently outperformed those that didn't. The speaking engagements led to opportunities to work with civilian organizations facing similar leadership challenges. Corporate executives, school administrators, and nonprofit leaders all struggled with the same fundamental question. How do you inspire people to perform their best while maintaining their dignity and well-being? Miguel's lesson provided the answer. Treat everyone as if they matter because they do. Pay attention to the whole person, not just their job function. Look for opportunities to help, even when it's inconvenient. These principles work whether you're leading soldiers, managing employees, or raising children. Last month, I received a Facebook message from Miguel's mom with a photo of him in his high school ROTC uniform. The caption was in English. He still talks about the soldier at the airport. Thank you for showing him what it means to serve others. Miguel is now 17 and planning to enlist after graduation. The message included a letter from Miguel himself, written in perfect English. He said he'd chosen military service because he wanted to help people the way I'd helped him and his mother. He joined ROTC, volunteered at local charities, and organized fundraisers for families in need. The 20 minutes we'd spent together had shaped his entire worldview about service and helping others. Reading his letter, I realized that Miguel had taken our airport encounter and amplified it beyond anything I could have imagined. He'd spent 8 years telling people about kindness, service, and the importance of helping strangers. How many people had he influenced with that story? How many of them had made their own decisions to help others because of what Miguel had shared? This is the true power of small decisions made with good intentions. They don't just affect the immediate situation. They create stories that spread, inspire others, and generate actions that ripple outward in ways we never see. Miguel's story had become a catalyst for kindness in his community, just as his original situation had catalyzed changes in my approach to leadership. Miguel's letter also included an invitation to his high school graduation. His mom wanted me to be there when he received his diploma and his ROTC Leadership Award. She said the school had asked Miguel to give the graduation speech, and he wanted to tell the story of how a stranger's kindness had shaped his life. I requested leave and flew to Miguel's graduation ceremony in California. Seeing him walk across that stage, confident and articulate, was one of the most emotional moments of my military career. The scared little boy with the stuffed dinosaur had grown into a young man who radiated the same kindness he'd experienced 8 years earlier. During his graduation speech, Miguel told our story to an audience of families, teachers, and fellow students. He explained how 20 minutes with a soldier in an airport had taught him that service means putting others before yourself, that leadership means seeing the humanity in everyone, and that small acts of kindness can change the world. The audience was captivated by his words, and many people approached me afterward to say how inspired they were by the story. Parents told their children about the importance of helping others. Teachers talked about incorporating kindness lessons into their curriculum. Students made commitments to volunteer in their communities. Looking back, missing that flight in Denver was one of the best things that ever happened to me. It taught me that the most important moments in life often come disguised as inconveniences. And the measure of a person isn't their rank or achievements, but their willingness to help others when no one is watching. The army taught me tactics, weapons, and strategy, but a 6-year-old boy with a stuffed dinosaur taught me about leadership, compassion, and the profound impact of small decisions made with good intentions. Sometimes the greatest lessons come from the most unexpected teachers in the most ordinary moments. I still carry that lesson with me every day, because I learned that extraordinary leadership doesn't require extraordinary circumstances. It just requires ordinary people willing to make extraordinary choices when faced with someone who needs help, even when it costs them something they think is important. The small decision to help one scared child find his mother changed how I see my role as a soldier and a leader. Every interaction is an opportunity to make someone's day better, and sometimes those moments of kindness echo through years in ways we never expect to discover. Today, I teach leadership courses to junior officers, and Miguel's story is always part of my curriculum. I tell them that the most important leadership skill they can develop is the ability to recognize when someone needs help and the courage to provide it, regardless of rank, protocol, or personal convenience. The response is always the same. Young leaders who thought leadership was about giving orders and maintaining discipline suddenly understand that it's about seeing people as complete human beings with complex needs, fears, and dreams. They leave with a different perspective on what it means to serve others and lead with purpose. Miguel taught me that leadership is ultimately about love, not romantic love, but the love that recognizes the fundamental worth and dignity of every person you encounter. When you lead from that foundation, everything else falls into place naturally. The technical skills matter, but the human connection is what transforms good leaders into extraordinary ones.